Morning, I'm Vice Mayor Shanika Smith, the Chair of Boards and Commissions Committee, and I'd like to welcome you all to our August 23rd remote meeting. All council members and staff are participating virtually. To help our audience follow along, I'll state each section of the agenda aloud. We are streaming live on the Virtual Engagement Hub, which is accessible through the Virtual Engagement Hub link on the front page of the city website. We also have the option for the public to listen live by phone. For those of you out there with us today, welcome. For today's meeting, we have the option for people to call in and comment live during the meeting. To call in and comment live, use the same number 855-925-2801 and use the meeting code 9478. Your phone will be placed on mute. Sorry, I have a new computer here. At this point, the speaker will need to push *3 to enter the speaker queue. I'll now do a roll call. Well, not a roll call vote. I'll now call the roll. Everyone with us, staff and council, just give a quick hello. Councilwoman Antoinette Mosley.
Good afternoon.
Councilwoman Kim Roney.
Good afternoon.
Deputy City Clerk Sarah Gross.
Hello.
Assistant Clerk Jerry Goldberg.
Good afternoon.
And a special assistant we have Peggy Rowe here, and that's not who we have with us today. We have Ben Woody. Ben, could you give me your title again? I don't have it on my script.
Yeah, interim assistant city manager. So, and I just got assigned to boards and commissions yesterday. So,
okay, well, welcome.
I'll be here moving forward. So, yeah, thank you.
Okay, welcome and welcome. Okay, so we'll start the agenda today. Can I get a motion to approve June 14th minutes?
So moved.
Okay, I'll do a roll call. Oh, I'm sorry. I am moving fast. I'll do a roll call vote for approval. Councilwoman Mosley.
Aye.
Councilwoman Roney.
Aye.
And myself, aye. The minutes are approved. Before we go any further, we actually have an additional item on the agenda. It is to go over the remote meeting policy. I'm not sure where that is on our agenda. I guess it's after we do our appointments. Is that correct, Sarah?
We'll have one new business, and that's with Elena, and then we'll talk about the remote meeting policy and then the appointments.
Okay. So is Elena up? I'm confused now because I don't have. Okay. Elena, you can take it from here.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Elena. I'm the analyst for the Office of Equity and Inclusion, and I am here to present to you proposed changes to the Hrca ordinance, establishing ordinance, coming from a recommendation from the Human Relations Commission. Sarah, am I able to present, or will you need to do that?
If you are able to, please go ahead, and if you want me to, I can as well.
Thank you. All right, so proposed changes to the Human Relations Commission ordinance. So background, the Human Relations Commission of Asheville was established by ordinance in July of 2018. As it's currently written, language around membership and appointment for the Hrca includes quotas. On July 21st, 2022, the Hrca voted 7-2 to recommend an update to the ordinance regarding their membership and appointment. This is a snapshot of the ordinance as it's currently written. I've circled in red the quotas that I mentioned around membership, and we're recommending that an amendment to the ordinance that removes required numbers of individuals from the various identified groups, and it also expands the list to be more comprehensive of the diverse Asheville community. So this is what that would look like. It includes additions in recommended membership to include Native Americans as well as Asian Americans, and we've removed the quotas from the list. And after deliberation, if you decide, we recommend this suggested motion to move to recommend the amendments of Ordinance 4663 regarding the Human Relations Commission of Asheville membership and appointment. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Elena. I appreciate the presentation. Any comments from the committee? And I think we skipped over public comment. So after comments concerning this item, we'll go back to public comment. But right now, we're going to entertain comments on or any feedback we have concerning Elena's presentation.
I'm curious if we might hear public comment about this today. In the discussion around the Human Relations Commission recommendation, there were questions about whether or not to add Indigenous Americans or Indigenous persons to this list. It was not added explicitly and is not the recommendation of the Human Relations Commission, but I just wanted to lift up that it has been suggested that we include Indigenous persons in our list at the council level.
Any other comments? Okay, we'll go to public comment.
Committee members, we do have one person on the line. One moment.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. My name is Patrick Conan, and I live in East West Asheville. I have comments regarding 2 items on today's agenda. First, regarding the amendments to the HRCA membership structure. I personally served on the Blue Ribbon Committee that helped recommend the structure and focus areas of this commission. During that process, city legal staff advised us that we could include specific membership criteria in our recommendations. And in fact, the adopted ordinance was drafted by the previous city attorney. As the membership structure was supposed to provide guidance rather than formal requirements, my understanding was that it was allowable. I'm wondering if council or staff can clarify why, several years after the ordinance was adopted, staff now raise legal concerns regarding these membership requirements. I'm unclear if this was an oversight by the previous city attorney or if something else has changed. I'm also concerned that removing the specific requirements around membership of the HRCA may, over time, create a commission that is not as diverse as the HRCA we have today. And in fact, diversity is a challenge that many city boards experience, and the HRCA seems to break out of that mold in a way that's positive for our city. Second, I wanted to weigh in on the proposal for a remote meeting policy for advisory boards. First, I applaud staff and council for providing boards with the option to meet remotely. However, I also want to note that this policy recommendation does not address how the public will be able to participate at virtual meetings. I encourage council to ensure that the public is able to make live call-in public comments at all advisory board meetings, whether they're in person or virtual. In any case, this topic should be addressed by a remote meeting policy. I also want to express my concern that a decision to meet remotely requires support of a supermajority of members. City staff have acknowledged that remote meetings are live streamed by default, while current work plans will not live stream or record in-person meetings. City staff have acknowledged that remote meetings address barriers to access for both members of the board and the general public, including transportation, childcare, and the time requirements of attending a meeting in person. What does it say about the values of our city that we require a supermajority to vote for a more accessible, transparent option? Are we willing to leave behind the voices of people who lack the ability to attend or participate in in-person meetings? I would also encourage council to provide boards with flexibility on their meeting format. I don't think it makes sense to require boards to commit to virtual meetings for the duration of the year. It seems reasonable to provide boards flexibility to conduct meetings in a variety of formats based on the content. Finally, I just want to point out that we don't have to make this decision so difficult. We could provide live streams of in-person and remote meetings, and I encourage council to come up with a better solution. Thank you.
All right, thank you to our caller for today. We're moving on to a consideration for remote meeting policy for the advisory board. This item was added on Monday and is for review and discussion only. It will be taken up at the September 13th meeting. Sarah, you're going to review this one?
Yep, I'm happy to review. I see some hands up. Do we?
Were we not supposed to vote on the HRC?
Oh, the HRC. I'm sorry.
I mean, we could certainly wait to make a recommendation, but I think that they're pursuing a action from us today.
Is there a motion?
I would make a motion to adopt the changes to the HRCA ordinance with the addition of Indigenous peoples.
I'll second.
All right, roll call vote. Councilwoman Mosley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Maroney,
Aye.
myself, aye. The motion approved. Jerry, you have a question or a comment? Jerry, you had your hand raised, I thought.
Just to tell you that we were requesting a vote. So,
Oh,
thank you.
thank you. Okay, well, what is next?
Remote meeting policy presented by Sarah.
Okay, Sarah, take it away.
You got it. First, I want to call out that this was added to the agenda. We are just looking for some discussion only in the hopes that in September we could have a policy in place. This policy is only referring to our advisory boards that are appointed by City Council. So we're not talking about council committees or any other quasi-judicial committees with this policy. The default, what is proposed here is the default would be that all committee meetings do go back to in-person, being that we will not have the state of emergency, which allows that automatic remote access that we have right now. So again, default would be in person. However, these advisory boards would have the option to continue holding remote meetings if one, again, the supermajority of the committee voted to in the favor of remaining virtual, and two, that the committee commit to that for at least a year. And this is for management purposes, so that the public knows what to expect, as well as staff as far as setting up and managing the meetings. We do know that there will be special meetings and maybe a need to switch, but the hope would be that that's not a daily or monthly occurrence. So that is what is being proposed. Hoping to hear from the committee, just discussion, feedback, and that we would have this back on our boards and commissions council committee in September, with the hope of also council adoption in September, so we can get something in place that would allow us the ability to have remote meetings. Any concerns about what is being proposed?
This is Kim. I'll just note that having archived meetings has been a benefit to me as a council member when I can review planning and zoning meetings, for example, or urban forestry commission meetings, or if I'm not the liaison, I could grab deeper understanding from a motion that was made by going back to the archive. So it's not only a benefit to the public and to the staff, but to the council. And so I wonder, before we say that don't have an answer, what would it look like to get a recording from the meeting, either video, which is preferred, or even just audio, and have that be part of our policy that we are going to record the meeting? I know it would take making sure that we have the capacity to do it. In multimodal meetings years ago, staff would have an audio device recording at the meeting. But I think that's what folks are looking for, as we gained accessibility, and we don't want to throw that in the recycle bin.
I hear that, and that does come to the capacity to do it. So I will connect with the communications department and see what we can do to bring back for the September review.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on along. We'll go to our July and August board appointments. We'll start off with the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. We do have recommendations from the chair and community members. I'll start with the recommendation from David Nash to cover the Hrca seat, the Housing Authority seat. He's recommending the appointment of Tara Irby. And Tara Irby is the Chief Operating Officer for the Housing Authority and has been for a while. She's been with the organization for a while.
If that's a motion, I will second.
All right. I'll do a roll call vote. Councilwoman Mosley.
Aye.
Councilwoman Roney.
Aye.
And myself, aye. Motion carries. There is a chair recommendation for the reappointment of Andy Barrett, Margie Bukowski, Paul Heathman, Barbara Ann Phillip, and David Bartholomew.
I move to reappoint the aforementioned.
All right, I'll second.
Second. Oh, go ahead.
All right, Councilwoman Mosley, roll call vote.
Aye.
Councilwoman Roney,
Aye.
and myself, I on the reappointment of those individuals. And the chair recommends the appointment of Inwena Smith. And I'll make a motion to seat her.
Second, Noena also serves on the Human Relations Commission and has been an active member.
Thank you. Roll call vote. Councilwoman Mosley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Roney,
Aye.
and myself, aye. The motion carries. For all three recommendations for Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, we'll move on to the Audit Committee. For the Audit Committee, we don't have any applications received, so we'll move, the clerk's office will re-advertise. For Board of Adjustments, we have a hard time filling this seat. We did get an application from a person who lives in the county but outside the city. That is Elliott Smith. I'll leave it to the committee to decide, but being that I'm moving towards making a recommendation to appoint Mr. Elliott Smith, being that we go through iterations of trying to seat someone and never get a person that lives within city limits. So what say ye?
Second.
All right. Yeah, I said everything to say. Yeah. Anyway, roll call vote. Councilwoman Mosley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Roney,
Aye.
myself, aye. Gonna move forward to council. The recommendation will move forward to council tonight. For the Buncombe County TDA, there is a high consideration to reappoint Larry Crosby. He's serving in an unexpired term. We usually go through a process, but since he was already in a process and seated again on an unexpired term, I recommend the reappointment of Larry Crosby.
I'll happily second.
Okay, roll call vote. Councilwoman Mosley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Roney,
Aye.
myself, aye. The motion carries. And we'll move on to the Historic Resource Commission. We have 2 vacancies there. We do have, let me make sure I'm doing the right thing. Just hold for a moment.
Vice,
Yep, I'm gonna go back to the design review. My notes are a little shambled today. For the design review, we have 1 vacancy. We have a recommendation for either Thomas McLaughlin or Maria. Could you pronounce her last name? I think there was a typo in the script.
I believe it's D. Isasi. It's D-E capital I-S-A-S-I.
Diocese. So is there a recommendation from the committee?
I'm inclined to recommend the appointment of Thomas McLaughlin because you'll see later under Human Resources Commission, Ms. Biglassi is recommended there, or staff recommends her there. So let's split the work.
Okay. I'll second that motion. Councilwoman Mosley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Roney,
Aye.
and myself, aye. And we move on to Historic Resources Commission. Is there a motion?
I move to recommend the appointment of Maria Diassi.
All right. I second that. Councilwoman Mosley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Roney,
Aye.
and myself, aye. And we'll re-advertise for the second vacancy.
Before we move on to the next one, which is the Homeless Initiative Advisory Committee,
Mhm.
as liaison to that group, I will note that we have multiple HUD-required sectors that are currently not represented, including the criminal justice system, behavioral health, university faculty or staff, school district McKinney-Vento liaison, state or local workforce development, business association, foundation or philanthropy, and the hospital system, because Jason Desai recently was no longer a member. So we have a number of sectors that aren't represented that we need to do outreach around, and those are HUD required. So we just went through that process to reevaluate. That said, having a neighborhood liaison or neighborhood group represented, I think there's a strong case for Rick Freeman to be appointed, but then to reapply for the vacancies or
And you're
really
liaison
advertise.
to that, your liaison to that
Correct.
committee? Do you have did you have that conversation with the nominating committee?
Not with the nominating committee. Our meeting is next week, so that there could be a good case for our meeting is this week. It's on Friday. So it's very possible that we'll see a deeper conversation about how to do outreach to these sectors, in which case we could wait and make a recommendation at our next board and commission meeting, which may be advisable since we have these HUD required sectors.
Or perhaps we could recommend one and hold the second seat.
Yeah, that's what I was mentioning earlier, that we could suggest someone like Rick Freeman.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes, and
I'll make
then
a second
leave
to
the-
that. Since both of you already suggested it, I'll second. I'll do a roll call vote for approval. Councilwoman Mosley?
I'm assuming we're talking about Rick Freeman.
Yeah, okay, so
And
you all
then,
both
and then Jerry has a
suggested that-
hand up.
Well, let me finish my statement. Or Jerry, are we going the wrong route? Or
No,
should we want to make this
Which-
motion?
the motion should include who of the two will be you're
Yeah.
including.
So I move to recommend the appointment of Rick Freeman for the Homeless Initiative Advisory Committee and to.
Second.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second to recommend the appointment of Rick Freeman. I'll do a roll call vote for approval. Councilwoman Mosley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Roney,
Aye.
and myself, aye. And the clerk's office will re-advertise for the second vacancy after there is a conversation with the nominating committee about some quotas that may need to be filled. And maybe I shouldn't say quota. Jerry?
Yes, just something that might assist us. Perhaps Councilwoman Roney, if you could bring back to the nominating committee or to the commission itself, if we can know which sectors in particular we're looking to fill, we could include that in the vacancy listing. So maybe it'll encourage some more, or at least it'll get the discussion going. But we don't know. So if we could have that.
I'm happy. It was part of our meeting document, so I'm happy to pull that and send it to you if that's helpful for re-advertising.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, for the Human Relations Commission, there are 2 vacancies. And I think there is a recommendation from the committee to re-advertise to get more applications from residents of the city. So is that agreeable with the committee?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, we'll move on to the Noise Advisory Board. We have 2 vacancies and we have a lot of recommendations. Well, not a lot, but we have a staff recommendation and we have a chair recommendation. Are there any comments about filling a seat of restaurant industry?
I will go ahead and indicate that although Liliana lives outside the city proper, she's the owner of ISIS restaurant in West Asheville. And the chair and vice chair strongly recommend her. And there's a little backstory that would, I think, warrant our decision to pick someone who technically lives outside the city. There have been problems with attendance with the Noise Advisory Board, and they're very eager to go about their business. And so they're inclined to fill seats as expeditiously as possible.
Okay, is that a motion?
Yes, I move to recommend the appointment of Liliana Woody for the restaurant industry seat of the Noise Advisory Board.
I'll second the motion. Do a roll call vote for approval. Councilwoman Mosley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Roney,
Aye.
And myself, aye. And we'll move to the second seat, which is a resident seat. Like I said before, we have a staff recommendation and a chair recommendation. I'll leave it to the committee for discussion.
I did speak to the some of the members of the Noise Advisory Committee, and there's a recommendation as well from a member around the Coalition of Asheville Neighborhoods. And it seems to be an alignment that there's a strong recommendation for Reb Haslip. And I think the application speaks strongly to their experience that may be helpful to this new noise board as they get into the weeds with staff on decibel levels, for example. So I would make a motion to recommend Red Haslip for the resident seat.
I'll second that.
Okay, I'll do a roll call vote. Councilwoman Mosley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Roney,
Aye.
and myself, aye. Motion carries. And that is all for our appointments today. We'll move to informal discussion about the TDA membership legislation.
All right, thank you. So yes, House Bill 1057 was passed and is effective, was effective July 1. It covers several things, including the occupancy tax and some change in percentages there. But as far as for this board, and what's important is it's also changing the membership component. There's nothing we need to do, but just to let you know that moving forward, they have added a seat that is a restaurant owner of a brewery, distillery, or winery open for tours or tastings, or executive director of a ticketed arts organization. That will be one of the seats appointed by City Council. In addition, we will still have 2 seats of hotel owners or operators with more than 100 units and 1 with fewer than 100 units. So this is a new, they're qualifying, I think, that this extra seat, it's not an additional seat, but they're revising this membership category a little bit more specifically than it had been in the past. So that's just an update. All current members will serve out their terms. And as far as the reappointment of Larry Crosby, he actually is a unit with less than 100 units. And so he's the only one. We only had one, so he will continue to serve out his next term.
Thank you, Jerry. We have a realignment update.
Yes, quick update to let y'all know. This Thursday, the realignment team will be meeting again, with the focus being on a survey that will go to current and past board and commission members, with the idea of continuing the assessment, and hopefully we can gauge and uncover some information from that survey results, which will ultimately drive what another phase could or would look like. So we're focusing on that survey to wait and see what we get from that. And that's it for me.
All right, public comment. Anybody in the speaker queue?
We have no callers on the line.
Any comment from the committee? All right, meeting adjourned.
Thanks, y'all.